Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Hello, apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to Idle Game Chat. This is Dimp Digital's flagship video game podcast, where we take you through the ups and the downs of the world of video games. We are here on your favourite podcast app and YouTube, absolutely free. However, if you want to support our independent grassroots endeavour, head over to patreon.com/Dimp Digital or twitch.tv/Dimp Digital and join the community. Hashtag hand in those pockets. I'm once again joined by the nearly man, very nearly now. It's the resident referee, it's Logan. How's it going?
Yep, good, yeah. Be pretty keen to just sort of, almost counting down the days now in December to get this bloody Fantasy Gaming League wrapped up before anything else drops anymore.
Well, as we record this, and patrons get it a little bit earlier, but when the public get it, there'll be a matter of 4 to 5 days left before it closes. And as we record this, you do still have a lead. We'll get into that very shortly. But in terms of us winding down for the year also, I was supposed to have figured it out by this week, and I haven't.
I was going to say, you're supposed to have the schedule sorted.
Yeah, I haven't done it. I've been ill, though. So that's the excuse. What's that Donald called it? A China flu. That's got me. So first time. Good run, though. Lasted almost 3 years.
Unbelievable run.
Without getting it officially.
That you know of, yeah.
Yeah, and then you go to one gig and one pub outing in 3 months, back to back, and you come back with that. So that's ruined the week to a certain extent, but still managed to get this done. So, yeah, we're winding down for the end of the year. Next week we'll have the results of the Fantasy Gaming League to share. So that'll be definitely happening for the next episode. Also, the Game Awards will have taken place by then. So some interesting chat there. It really comes down to whether it's the week after. I think there's either 2 or 3 left in us, is the way I look at it. You got this one.
He's probably ambitious, isn't it?
This one more, and that might be it. Or this one, another one, and maybe one more. We'll see, because there should be an end of year wrap episode occurring. So yeah, we'll keep you posted. We won't. You'll just see that the feed won't update one week, and have no new episode there. But we should have things like the quiz and the results show for the Fantasy Gaming League as well in bonus edition. So should be packed full of content to get you through the festive period. Let's move into the Fantasy Gaming League. As I said, we are a week away as we record this, and less so for those that are listening. And it's all starting to take shape now. We've got Logan, you're sitting on an 807, top of the blocks of the Grand Prix. Adkins sitting on an 803 now. So there's a 4-point gap there. As we know, Adkins has only got to draw level to take that title away from you. God of War has lost a point in the last week as well, which went down to a 93, which didn't.
What are we doing?
Didn't please you, but you've still got that buffer there, and it will take surely an extraordinary set of events for that to be overturned now.
I say nothing these days because how many times has something gone against me in this stupid game where I've ended up so close to a championship title and then not got it. So I'm not putting the mockers on anything. I'm not sitting here feet up, champagne, bubbly popped and all that kind of stuff.
Not got it on ice yet.
No, because it's just ridiculous. All it takes is some stupid game review to come out or whatever, and it moves the dial by 2 points, and Adkins does the same. Like all of a sudden, it's So yeah, at the moment, clearly I'm in the driving seat, which is nice. I was literally just thinking as you said that, I was like 807 across 10 games. I was like, really, that's I know I've got subs there, but an 80 average. Like, that is toss.
Yeah, you've had free transfers as well, because actually if you remove the transfer, it's an 82 average.
You're really looking at 84, 85, I think, for a championship.
Yeah.
So in some ways, it could be like that season that Leicester won the title.
just scrambled through and got it.
Just scraped through and got it, yeah.
Well, some say Spurs should have won it that year. And that may have been the only chance.
That's what they'll be looking at Adkins, and then they'll be going Sonic Frontiers, what were you thinking?
Yeah, that will sting him. We've had a couple of games come out for the other Grand Prix competitors. Salmon logged another game in Warhammer 40k Dark Tide. That's sitting on a 76 now, so that was as low as a 72 when it first came out. So that's starting to build some momentum. Don't think it's going to do much for his overall score because he's only had 7 games released, so that's going to condemn him to the bottom of the pile most likely.
It's easy to forget. I'm just going to defend Sam a little bit. It's easy to forget. We've been doing this for, what, like 8, 9, 10 years now? Is it that long? I mean, maybe it's not that long for this competition. Maybe it's at least 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's 5. I think it's about 5, maybe 6.
And it does take you a bit to get the concept and kind of work out some kind of strategy. Not that I'm saying I'm a strategic master or whatever, but even just going for things like Football Manager and trying to get in a couple of guaranteed mid-80s and then trying to pick out some gems and stuff and figure out what reviews well, what doesn't. Like, it takes a few goes, I think. So it's easy to point the finger, and I think Salmon might be being a bit cheeky when he says, I didn't realise there was a penalty for... Well, you were told every time, Dave, so what we're doing. But I think, as an opening kind of attempt, I don't think you should be too disappointed by it.
No, it's all about finding your feet and just making the mistakes in this first season. And part of half the game is working out open critic, what's going to get a new page, what won't. I mean, Biff's still making that same mistake. He's been playing it 5 years and he's still putting things like Persona 5 Royale Edition on there when we all knew that was never getting a brand new page in a month of Sundays, and he's still done it. So, mistakes will be made. You got fucking Hall, who claims he's the uncrowned champion, chucking out just a load of crap. 60s across the board, 70s. I mean, it's no one's... it's not easy.
He tries to be too clever.
He does try to be clever. Yeah.
He tries to be clever and go, I found the one that everyone else didn't. When actually he's not doing that. He's finding the toss that everyone else ignored. Yeah.
It's not... And he had Babylon's Fall in his team at one point. So he could have ended up with a 40-odd had he not at least seen that fucking train coming and got off the tracks and changed it. But... it's tricky, like I said. Biff's also had another game land, which we'll talk about in a bit more depth later, but the Callisto Protocol has landed currently on a 75, but it's only had 38 reviews as we record this, so that could change also. That's going to break either one way or the other. I hope it breaks a little bit more positively because I think it's been getting a bit of a... Having not laid my hands on it, I sit here and say I think it's getting underserved, but it would be nice to see it get a bit more of a boost because people seem a little bit down on it just by seeing the review scores, but that brings his total up to 707. He's only got 9 games, so can't go any further, but he had an average of 80, if anyone would care. But in fact, Salmon has an average of 80 as well. Adcock averages 77, so there's a real... get the weakness there. And then Hall, disgustingly, got an average of 78, so that's no great success.
This is what I'm saying, though. Like, Adcock committed Harry Carey and just decided just to pick games that were just... I don't know what he was up to, but even that's what I mean when I say it's almost like a weirdly low scoring year, I think. I mean, I don't know whether that's true or not in comparison to other years, but for Hall to be on like a 78 and Biff blew it with Persona, and obviously Salmon's first year doing it, you'd expect better from Adcock with that brain of his, I think. Quiz champion.
I just don't understand how his first pick is Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction, which is fine, but only if there was no other games on option. The very next game that was picked in the draft order, which was you, was God of War Ragnarok. So how's he passed that up and let you get that? You were behind him in the draft.
Yeah. The fact that I got that game blew my mind. I was like,
At number
I fully
5.
expect- yeah, at 5.
That's-
How it got through 4 other people. Like, it's always going to be 90 plus, really,
Well,
always,
yeah.
or at least high 80s. Like, surely that's not to be sniffed at. But anyway, yeah, it feels like a bit of a low-scoring year this year. So, you know, I hope just capitalise on it, which is weird because you'd have thought the COVID years would be the more unpredictable ones.
Yeah, it's one of those things. We keep saying, next year it'll be fucking packed, and then it starts off packed, and then this year it just seemed to die after like by the summer there's nothing going on, and then it's sort of it's picked up again in the later months. Like Midnight Sun's come out as well this past week. That's on an 83, looks quite cool if you're into those XCOM games. Got a bit of a Marvel spin on it. As I said, you've got Warhammer, you've got Callisto Protocol, etc. I mean, things like Pokémon should be good games, but have been wheeled out of the But again, it was looking at God of War. Like, there's been like a good, steady bit of momentum in this sort of last sort of charge for the year. Should have had Starfield. Should have been playing that, but we're not. But you know, we'll see. 2023 is going to be.
I had Starfield. I had to sub it out. Was it Starfield? Or was it Red?
You had Redfall.
Redfall, yeah.
I think Adcock had Starfield actually, so might have been unlucky there perhaps. But no, that's the FGL. We'll be back next time, and the results will be final. That'll be we know the championship's basically won. Parky's got that wrapped up, but the Grand Prix still hanging in the balance to a certain extent. But everything will be confirmed, and there's rumblings going on behind the scenes about changes to the format.
I don't know why we're rumbling.
Well, I always rumble. I don't even want the change, but I sometimes do it just to gauge interest and see what people are thinking. It's surprising what people come back with. Some of the harebrained schemes. I've had star players being thrown at me to say, well, you pick one star team and then you get double points for it. And I'm like, what are we doing here? I put in the terms, this is all to try and simplify and make it more competitive and fair. And people are chucking out double point star player fucking bollocks in there. And I thought, that's not going to simplify it.
End up like something from the bloody across the pond, isn't it? With the US doing it. It'll be like one of those ridiculously complex NFL games and stuff. I think we've refined a format to something that works. I guess sometimes the difficult thing is picking enough games and trying to get the quality and quantity is the hard bit. 'Cause it used to be when we first did it, I think we were picking like 5.
Yeah.
And then it became like 10. And now you really need a list of between 20 and 30.
Yeah.
I think that's the difficult part. You kind of get to the end of the season and then it's like you're immediately then, it's like United. It's like we go again and you're straight into it and you're like trying to figure out what's coming out next year and trying to get 30 good games.
People should be planning this. I've been saying it all along. If a game gets delayed out of this year, put it on your new list for next year and say, right, that's one to keep. No one does it though. They're all like, they're caught cold by it. You all know it's coming. that WhatsApp message will come through and it'll say, get it in by this time, and that'll be it. And then you'll have to be scrambling around. But I have very little sympathy for the competitors personally, but we'll see how things go. I just wanted to chuck this in there at the beginning because you've gone and invested in a new bit of hardware. A monitor of sorts, gone from a 1440p jobby up to a 4K. Now, monitor size, what are we talking, 27, 28 inch here?
28, yeah.
So really the only question I had on this was two. One, why is that happening? So we can just stop there and answer that now.
So when was it? July last year. Yeah.
Yep.
I think I was just using either just one of my work monitors or an old TV or something that was HD, but it was 1080p. It maxed out, and I think the biggest issue I realised was this frame rate thing.
Right.
I was like, I really should do something about this, and I sort of was having a little look round, and I saw one of these Samsung G5s. I think that was lurking. I think I got it for £286.50 then.
Yes.
And it was a curved 27 inch. I think that was 1440p. No, it might have been 1080p, 144 hertz, something like that. But yeah, about a couple of months ago, I noticed like along the bottom of the monitor, there was like black spots or like black areas where you can tell, like, I don't know what's on the bottom of the monitor, where it's some sort of lighting tube or lights go along the bottom of these LCDs. But it looked like some of the bulbs had failed or something. Right, it was really weird. And I was like, I saw one come up, and then a month later I saw another one. And I think by the end of it, I had about 5 or 6. It was playable, but I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And then randomly the screen started flickering in one kind of block up and down the screen. And I was like, well, that has put paid to it. So I got back onto Amazon. And this is, by the way, this is the reason why you buy things from Amazon and why Amazon, despite all this plea to shop locally and stuff like that, like it's almost impossible to do when you get in this sort of service. So a year and a half later, I'm chatting to a guy at Amazon and he's like, well, we can refund you. And I'm like,
it's crazy.
Fine. Like, so I've had a year and a half use out of a monitor. It's broken. You get a 2-year warranty, so it's fine. Like, it's within warranty, but literally just send that back. So I was like, well, I've got 300 quid to play with here.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much Black Friday. So I was going through it and I was like, what have we got? And obviously I come out to you guys in the Dimp world.
Well, I started a squabble in there.
I was inadvertently. It's always interesting to get opinions in that group. And that's why I chuck it out there. And there's nothing almost more paralyzing or drawing more parallels, should we say, than this kind of playoff between 4K and refresh rate. And it's always interesting to see. And I know from when we've discussed before, the maximum frames I'll get, if I even get that, is 120 on these consoles, right? So I already know that 144 hertz is going to be fine for that. But anyway, there was this discussion around, you're going to see the benefit of 4K, you're not, this, that, and the other. And it's kind of like, I see both sides of the argument, I think, because the simple fact is if it's a higher density resolution, surely you're going to see the benefit of that. Granted, you're probably not going to see it as much as you would do on a 55 or a 65-inch TV, but I think realistically you're going to see some difference. It might be super minimal, but you'll see some difference. And I was sitting there and I was like, oh, I could easily, because you know me, I play the majority of what I play is either Call of Duty, Overwatch, these kind of FPS games. So really, I don't need a 4K screen for that. I'm never going to use it. It's never going to be utilized. But I was sitting there and I was thinking, well, if I've got games like God of War and who knows what else might come out over this gen, where I do actually get that, I didn't like the idea that I wasn't going to be, how'd you phrase it? I wasn't going to be getting the maximum. It's back to this, right? It's back to this. I want everything it can give me. So when I was looking through it, I kind of set an upper threshold of 500. I went, right, that's because you got to do that, right? Because if you don't set something, then you don't have any boundaries. So I went 500 quid. Let's see what we can get. So yeah, this Samsung G7 cropped up. It was normally 650. It was down to just under 500. It was 4K, 144 hertz refresh, and I was like, well, that's all these consoles are going to offer anyway.
At a maximum, an absolute.
At a maximum, that's all they're offering
on their best fucking day, which is never.
Yeah, so I was like, tick, done, get in here. So for a net spend of just over 300 quid, I got an upgrade. So yeah, reasonably happy with that.
And how is the experience been? Have you noticed any difference in the resolution or the colours or anything like that?
Yeah. So the first thing I should say is that G5 that I had was not. I was really not very impressed by it at all. Even to the point where I wasn't even going to buy another Samsung monitor.
Right.
Like I was that disappointed by it because when I got it, I was like, I'm expecting great things from this.
It was too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like curved screens. I figured that out now. It's not my bag. I prefer a straight, flat screen, whatever you want to call it. So I didn't like that really, but I'd adjusted to it. The colours on it weren't very vibrant. I didn't feel like the colour palette didn't feel as nice.
Yeah.
I couldn't, even down to I couldn't move the monitor up and down. I couldn't change the angle. I couldn't do anything. It was just kind of on my desk, and I had to like position myself according to the monitor rather than the other way around. So there's loads of little things about it that I wasn't that impressed with, but I mean, I have to say I've played about 10 hours of Ragnarok on it now, I think, and I've played Warzone, Rocket League. Like the color definition on this compared to that is like night and day. Like it's so much nicer. I don't know if it's because it's got a higher, I'm going to say the word nits. I'm pretty sure it's got higher nits. It's a brighter screen, but I mean, I definitely feel like it's a better. I mean, you'd expect it, right? It's just, I think you can pick up a G5 now for around 200 quid. So I think in terms of like capability of the monitor, this one's normally 650. So you're talking about 200 quid monitor to a 650. like you're gonna expect something noticeably better. And I definitely like playing God of War yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't even need to put it on that graphics mode. I was like, this
No.
already looks unbelievable. Like now on this screen, even compared to what I was playing it on the G5. So yeah, it definitely feels like an upgrade to me.
Well, you tell Dave that after he's trying to send you down the 1440p path and say, look, I've gone full 4K and now I'm the king.
Well, I posted it in there. I went, I've got a G7. He went, that ain't a G7, mate. I was like, well, it is. In fact, it's better what Hall's got, really, like in terms of capabilities. So I was like, it definitely is. But no, I can understand what people are saying, right? I can understand that the difference is probably very minimal. But if there is a difference and it is minimal,
I'll have it.
Is basically where I'm at these days. The thing is, it's like if I was on a budget of 300 quid,
Yeah.
I ain't going to get this. And it's different. It depends what budget you've got. And I was like, well, if the money's there, I might as well enjoy some of this like glorious 4K that I haven't really dabbled in before.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few things, right? Now, I've come to a kind of a conclusion these days that one of the few things I like to spend my money on, I like doing, is actually gaming. So I'm kind of coming away from this sort of kind of more budget or middle range view on things.
He's going to get a PC.
I would still like one, but I think once you start, that PC route is a whole new world.
It's a different level.
There's a difference between not doing budget console gaming versus this kind of unlimited melting pot of expense.
Yeah, you can at least
PC
in the console space you can pretend like you've got a lot of money and flash it around, whereas in the PC space you actually have got to have a lot of money. I've said many a times in this podcast, I was originally a PC gamer, and I always did all my gaming and stuff on the PC. So it's not something I'm against, but I still just feel for what I want to play, when I want to play, and who I want to play with. I still feel like the consoles are giving me 98% of everything I need. The other 2% being Football Manager. But I'm never going to say never on it. I think is where I'm at the minute. I'm happy with what I've got, but we'll see. Yep.
We're very happy with this monitor.
Good. That's what we like to hear. And it's a tricky one. The display type. I spent honestly, Logan, months obviously as a word researching displays before these current gen consoles came out, and it's tiresome looking for all that garbage and trying to get to what you need to get to. And monitor versus TV is obviously a big one. It basically comes down to space. If you've got space to house a bigger TV, you're normally better off getting that. But if you haven't got the space, there's not really any compelling TV options that are small enough, so you have to go for a monitor. Then you're making a compromise here, and it's just a howler. So I'm happy with what I've got here in this CX. Although Dead Pixel's lurking on that, so John Lewis will be getting a call soon. I don't think they even cover it either. I'll be seeing what they got to say about that. So not completely flawless. 2 and a bit years into the TV's life, pretty concerning. But genuinely, that had all the bells and whistles I wanted. But it took me months to get it, and it was not cheap. Fucking extortionate price. So I don't envy people going through that process, especially when your hands forced to by a technical issue, because it's not unexpected. You kind of think, well, I want this sorted sooner rather than later. And you have Black Friday lurking. You think, if I miss the window here, I could be pants down in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So I'm pretty sure Amazon said if you bought anything up to a week or 10 days before Black Friday, they would honour the price of that and refund you or sort of do something with that, which is really good of them. But I was playing on my work monitor. Which is actually, the picture quality on it is all right. Like I would actually say I've got an HP work monitor, and the picture quality on that was better than my G5. So I mean, some people might be saying I've got the color palette and everything wrong, but trust me, it's not great. But I was limited to like 60 frames. But one thing I was going to say, it's interesting because I know that you like gaming on a slightly bigger TV. So yours will be a 32, I'm going to guess.
That's a 48.
Yeah, that's mental.
Well, I've got the monitor I use for gaming on PC is a 27.
Yeah. So from my perspective, 27 inches is the maximum I'd want to game on.
Yeah.
So the one that I've got now is 28, and it's it's going to take me a little bit of getting used to.
Yeah.
And the 24-inch monitor that I was actually playing on, I prefer.
Wants to go back
which
to
is
that.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually like a slightly smaller screen. I don't know if that's because
Cole likes that as well because he likes to be able to see the entire frame without having to like move his eye. Like it's just sort of there. You can see things easier in your peripheral vision.
I found it easier to do Call of Duty on a smaller screen.
That's common.
That
is common.
And if I tried I literally can't play like a first-person shooter on my 55-inch TV downstairs. Not possible. There's too much area to cover with your eyes. But yeah, it is a minefield, and I know that you always are very diligent in your research of things, which is why I chuck things out. You know, people generally, I mean, I do research on stuff, and I know a little bit, but I don't profess to know anywhere near as much generally about these things as you, Dave, and co. So it's interesting to get that kind of canvas of opinion, and then it is up to me as to what I want to get. And in this case, I was just like, well, you know, for 150 quid off, £500 limit set, I might as well get something that isn't really a compromise. It's, you know, it's the top of what my consoles are going to produce for me, and hopefully it lasts, you know,
longer than
for
2
the majority.
years.
Well, a year and a half. I was really disappointed because I felt like at the time 300 quid for my monitor was a lot. I was expecting a lot of it, and yeah, it's really disappointing from something like Samsung as well, where it just started crapping out after a year and a half. From something that you'd expect to largely be used every day, like a monitor as well. It's a bit disappointing, I thought. So hopefully the G7's got a bit better build quality on it.
Let's hope so, because if it's not, we'll be subjected to a 20-minute rant, I suspect, at some point in the near future, if that craps the bed. But no, pleased that you managed to get that in, and I'm sure other people got some goodies on Black Friday. Some good game deals out there, just buying video games themselves lurking, which was always interesting to see. But yeah, that's it for another year. Although they do say it's a bit of a swindle this Black Friday. The prices are the same 2 months before. If you check the history, they artificially pump them a month before and then put them back down to what they were and say deal. But there's, again, you talk about the minefield. You're already trying to get through the minefield of figuring out what to buy. Then you're trying to suss out if you're getting swindled or tricked into a deal. But if it's within budget, you just get it, and then that's the end of it.
Yeah,
you can't
you
be
set a
dealing with it.
budget, you set requirements and go, is it in budget? Tick. Does it meet the requirements? Tick. Purchase. And that pretty much applies houses, cars, monitors, games.
Yeah. That's how you do it. It's as easy as that, people.
Do it.
Stop
Life advice.
Exactly. That's what you don't get in other podcasts. Not accurate stuff anyway. Gonna do a bit more. Gonna do a bit of headline surfing that we did last time.
Yeah, enjoy that.
Krafton stock takes a dip as Callisto Protocol launches to a mid-70s reviews. The South Korean company is the owner of developer Striking Distance Studios. So, don't really care about their stock price, to be honest. Sorry, Krafton. They own PUBG, so they're doing fine. Well, they were doing fine. I don't know how popular that is now, but it's
probably not too great.
Probably, I reckon it still makes a shitload. Comparatively, like as human beings, you go, that is a lot of money they're making, but relatively compared to Fortnite, no. But you can't have it all, unfortunately. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Callisto Protocol launched to mid-70s reviews, and I was quite interested. I am interested in this game. I'm most likely going to get it. I'm just waiting on Digital Foundry to sort of give it the clean bill of health from a technical perspective, because I've heard PC's not the platform to go to because it's got a few problems there, which is... I don't know if this is just me making it up, but it feels more and more common. Like every other game, it's like it's got as this stutter, the shade stutter compilation issue where it will stutter randomly as it generates new shaders in the background that you've not experienced. And the only way
Warzone did that as well on PC.
The only way to solve
I don't know if it's
it,
the exact thing.
The only way to solve it is to pay someone to play through the game once and then let you play it the second time, because everything will be. I mean, it's crazy, but that's one to avoid. So I'm just waiting on the console stuff, and I looked at John Linneman's profile from Digital Foundry, and actually it came up in my feed, and he said he really likes it, and like, so I was like, okay, well, he would normally put in the tweet like when the video's going up later, there's a few things to look out for. So it sounds like at least technically it's okay, but it's had a bit of a rough time in terms of reviews, or has it? And that's the question I pose. Is 75 really a rough time? Because here's one scenario I'll put forward to you. Chrissy Dring, who does our European sales data, he also writes for VGC, does reviews now and again, freelances in. He reviewed the Callisto Protocol, gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Okay. And then in a tweet with the article, he put, Callisto Protocol is good. As a Dead Space fan, I'm glad I got a chance to play this. Lots of room for the team to do even more of the next one. But you translate that to the Open Critic and Metacritic, it's a 6 out of 10. So Chris's words there of it being good wouldn't translate. If you got 50 reviews all at 3 out of 5 stars, it would bottom out at a 60 and everyone would go, that's a disaster. So the question is it that poor really? Is a 75? And for me, it's in the lower end of the pocket I was kind of hoping it to be, but it's still in the pocket. I never expected. I thought if it got an 80, it'd be lucky in a way, because these horror games just seem to struggle. I think the reviewers are scared of playing them, and they're forced to, and they don't like it. But 75, would that put you off a video game that you were anticipating? Or does it depend on the video game? Call of Duty, they said, Modern Warfare 2, sitting on a 75. People seem happy with that.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult because, let's be honest, like generally speaking, even it goes the same for films, right? It doesn't just because a review score and a reviewer's opinion is exactly their own.
Just don't take Adkins' opinion on a film, because he'll give it a 10 out of 10 every time.
Yeah, I mean, he's not to be trusted. I mean, generally, it kind of gives you a barometer of where it's at, right?
It's a temperature gauge. It's like within 7 either way, and you think it's probably around accurate.
Yeah, I mean, naturally, you want people to rave about things because it reinforces what you want as well.
Oh, cool. Yes. Yeah.
Like, so, I think it's natural for that. You want things to be good. You want games to be reviewed well, and you want positive vibes, basically. But, 7.5 out of 10, 3.5 stars out of 5. Like, however you try and sort of melt it down, it's not bad. Basically, it's like good, not great. Like, which is okay. Like, I think, again, you'd prefer people to say that's a great game, you must play. Like, everyone wants those, but I guess really it's not. But then you've got, Sonic Frontiers on like 76 or something, haven't you? So that's getting crapped on.
72.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I mean. It's like 7 out of 10. If someone gave you 7 out of 10 for something, you take it. Generally
Pokémon
speaking,
72.
It's just, I think it's just, from my perspective, anything in that realm of the 80s is where you want to be. I don't know why. That's just an arbitrary number and score that I've set in my head for no apparent reason, based on absolutely nothing.
No.
So, I guess everything a bit below that, in the way that my brain works, is a little bit disappointing. But that doesn't mean it's not good. I just disappointed. It just doesn't hit the high notes. But you'd probably, I don't think it's something we've ever really discussed. We know how our reviewing works. So if you try and equate that to our gold, silver, platinum, bronze, 7.5, it could go silver or gold. Have I blown that? No, it could go bronze or silver.
Yeah. In theory, if you wanted to melt down the medals and that's what they.
Yeah, that's where we're at, really. So what we're saying is pretty much, if we were reviewing it with the same system, it'd be, seal of approval, really, style stuff with a bronze or silver.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of changed it back to that, because it's less about the number, which we've got here, although it's not for the fucking stockholders, obviously.
Yeah,
it's more about recommendation to play it, and then off that, it's like how many degrees did we enjoy it, Was it the highest possible enjoyment and we just fucking loved it? Or was it like, no, we enjoyed it, but only to a certain extent? And really, the number stuff is... I've tried to drum it out of people to stop thinking about it that way and just say, look, did you enjoy it enough that you'd say, yeah, good. I'll be happy to have... Because that's why there's galleries there. People come look round there. If they see Toot in there, they'll be questioning it. So you can't be putting crap in there. And yeah, anything that's sort of above the minimum threshold of enjoyment is just a degree of an opinion, depending on how extreme it is. No, I was going
to say, we've talked about it before, like when we've been discussing the grading system, and I think we've pretty much settled on, if there's nothing fundamentally wrong, it starts at a 6 out of 10. And then you work your way up from there, really.
It's Football Manager doing that.
Well, yeah.
Because those players come on, they've all got 6 out of 10s before they've even kicked a ball.
Yeah, you start from a 6 and up you go. But then we start thinking about things, this is wrong technically and all that kind of stuff. It is a pretty, well, it's a completely subjective score and, on a different scale. So it is interesting. I mean, I would say no. It doesn't make it bad at 75.
Adkins has got Destiny syndrome. He's worried. I could tell when he didn't get the review scores he wanted. It panicked him a little bit.
I mean,
he wants to love it.
He might love it.
He will. He will. He will love it. I know I'm going to like it more than likely. I'm intrigued now to find out what people's issues were. Now I haven't really read much of it. I've seen like glimpses here and there.
Yeah.
But
I think it's exactly that. It gives you a waypoint or a barometer or a temperature, however you want to put it, as to where it is. Is this going to be one of the games of a generation? Is it going to be a game of the year? Is it going to be a good game? Like, this is the problem. It's kind of like people set this kind of arbitrary bar in their head of where they want it to be, and then when it doesn't quite get there,
they just go,
it's like, well, what's wrong with it then? It's like, well, maybe it's still good, but there are some things where it just doesn't quite hit the high notes, you know. And it's your point. Maybe people are scared. I mean, I know I'd be scared off by it. I couldn't do game reviews or something like that. So
it makes you wonder sometimes who they get to review, like horror games in particular. Also, the thing with horror games, I will say, more than any other genre, I would be super interested to know how these fuckers played it. Did they have the fucking light on? Did they have the curtains open? Did they have headphones on? Because horror in itself needs a bit of atmosphere. It needs you to be kind of secluded.
You have to enjoy it, right? I think that's a really difficult thing to say. If everyone plays through this really gripping drama narrative, or that's got like these highs and lows and things, that's pretty much going to touch the same notes on the majority of people. Whereas horror would never touch. Like I generally just don't enjoy it.
Yeah, well,
irrespective of anything. So I'm never going to go, that was a 9 out of 10 game.
No.
So I'm never going to enjoy it that much. I'm just going to be like, I got through it. It was all right. It is a tricky genre, I think, and you'd like to think you'd give it to people that genuinely enjoy a horror experience. But maybe there are people that just don't really like it that much and have to do it because it's their job or something. It's an interesting point.
Yeah, it's not ideal, and I've heard of people that play games with podcasts rolling in the background, and I think, well, if you're supposed to be playing a horror game, that you can't be doing that. Like, you got to at least be engaged with the product, and I'm not saying they're doing that, but I know of people that put podcasts on. And I do wonder sometimes the environment in which sometimes reviewers do these, because they're already under the cosh for deadlines. Yeah. You're already getting a completely unnatural, truncated, squashed, rushed, play through an opinion. And I've been there myself so many times. You just want something done, and you hit a really hard point. You can't do it. You keep failing. You can't. And guess what? You start to think it's the game's fault. This is bullshit. Why have they made it like this? All this bollocks starts audibly coming out of this gob of mine. And eventually you get through it and you think, well, that weren't too bad. That was just me throwing a paddy, basically. But I couldn't imagine. I can imagine that being even more intense. That it's your job. You have an embargo to hit, and if you don't, you're going to be in the shit. And it's like, I can totally relate to that. So if they got the code later than they would have liked, does that set you up for fuck's sake? Now I've got I've got to spend 2 days doing this rather than 5 or 10. Like, there's all these.
It's the Outriders syndrome.
Yeah.
Now, right, where you end up spending 12 hours in a game and fucking hating it by the end. Like, it's just, and then you've got to give it a score, right? And it's tricky. As you were saying that, I was thinking, I bet there's so many people that love to do like game reviewing for a living and stuff. Actually, in some ways, it's a poison chalice because
it is. It ruins things.
You
can't enjoy it.
How can you? It's exactly that. And you have to. The only way that I could think you could do it is to do it for the review and then actually go away and play things like in your own time. And see if you appreciate it in a different kind of way. But can you imagine having to sit there and get a God of War review done in like 3 days or something? Like,
yeah. There was half the people that reviewed Elden Ring hadn't finished it. Just had to chuck something out there, and that is one game that gets worse as it goes on as well. So that's this. It's interesting because, like you say, though, I would not. I remember years ago, I'd be like, it'd be great to just get paid to review games. But honestly, I couldn't think of anything worse. Like the hounding and the hustle to get things out on, because your traffic is going to be hot for that embargo few hours, that half a day maybe. If you come after that, the numbers you could have got in terms of views or clicks or whatever are just going to not be anywhere near the potential. Anyone saying there's not a pressure there to get things out on time, and that doesn't, even if it's subconscious, affect one's playthrough is lying. It simply at some point will take its toll on you, whether you think it does or not. You'll start to play the game differently. Anything that offers meaningful resistance against you, whether it's fair or not, you're not going to be able to determine that. You're just going to think this is bollocks. And all you're thinking is, fucking Alan's going to call me in a minute saying, where's that fucking review you said you were getting done 5 hours ago?
It does make you wonder. I've always wondered how they review Football Manager, right? How
many seasons you do?
Because I do 1,000 hours and I still find it hard to review. I spend about 40 hours doing the first save, which always goes in the bin. Right. So it does kind of put in perspective that they're playing something, a very truncated version of something.
It's not how a normal gamer will play it at all.
No,
it's not.
No. And you're looking for all that in-depth kind of technical issue analysis and graphical commentary, storyline, like everything. And you're asking them to do, it's very difficult, and I do have. I'm not sympathy, I wouldn't say, but I think it is tricky sometimes. So sometimes we see these scores go and you think, what? How have they even come to that conclusion? Sometimes I wonder whether they even finish it. Well, they just sort of make some bollocks up. Like,
no. It's rare, but there's a few that have been caught not playing it through, and a lot of them hide their trophies and achievements so that if one did want to check,
you can't.
You can see. So I'd immediately be sceptical. I mean, we're starting to paint the media as some sort of cabal that's in some sort of place. But when Krafton are like, hang on a minute, we've just stuffed our bloody shares up over this crap. But then again, they handed the codes out probably later than they should have done. The embargo was on launch day, which is always a bit of a red flag. It's like, why are you doing that, you fucking prats? So they sometimes cause it on themselves, but no, the environment in which people review games is not something I would want to be involved in. That's why the mantra is here. Everyone plays what they want to play, and it takes as long as it takes. And one day it will pop up in that feed of yours, and you'll hear what the playthrough is like. But there's no. I think those creators out there, or those outlets that have moved away from this embargo chasing review kind of conversation, are the ones that have healthier conversations in total, because they're not chasing this immediate, like, oh, we've got to talk about it this week, we've got to have this week. It's like, we'll talk about it when we're ready, and you'll enjoy the conversation because we're playing it naturally, or as natural as our lifestyle kind of allows, which is another thing. People's lifestyles are different. I did want to just drag a few fuckers over the coals.
All right,
we got GameSpot here. 5 out of 10 they gave this Callisto Protocol.
Didn't they fuck me over on one of my games?
Yeah, they've fucked people over many times. Guess what they gave Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, though? A self-admitted mess, as we'll get onto a bit later. 8 out of 10.
This is where we discussed it
Last
last week
week,
when
yeah.
I was going through them fucking reviews, and someone went, "I just like Pokemon." It's like, well, what's the point of doing this fucking review then if you're not going to be objective?
That's the trouble with no
Nonsense.
review's objective, is it? That's the trouble.
Yeah, but surely you, to a certain extent, you either have to go, look, I love Pokemon. If I didn't love Pokemon, this would be fucking broken and unplayable. But it's like, surely you've got to cater to both audiences of like fanboys and perhaps non-fanboys.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. It winds me up, that does.
Metro Game Central, 6 out of 10 for Callisto Protocol. Pokemon, 8 out of 10. Now, Metro are normally really harsh.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you see anything over an 8, over a 9. The fact that Pokemon, the technical
Is that,
Pokemon, the fucking Cyberpunk edition,
Violet.
yeah, got itself a bloody 8 out of 10 is shocking.
Edition.
Well, it basically is. Well, it's just they've...
Did you see someone did a mod on that on PC?
No.
It literally had like 60 FPS. It was
Oh,
a
yeah.
60 FPS mod, and it looked fucking incredible. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's crazy what they can do. Anyway, enough slagging these reviewers off. They've got a hard enough job, but you've kind of made a roll off your own back by getting involved. Oh, it's gone up to 76. I just refreshed it, so there we go.
There you go.
Adkins will be happy with that. I think he's pre-ordered it. That's why he was... And because he's done it mail order, he can't cancel it on the day. So he has to sort of just ride this out. But yeah, I don't see any reason why I won't get it. I'll tell you the one reason I haven't got it already is one, I've not watched or read the Digital Foundry article, whatever. I like to check the technical side of things because that, as I said, probably the most subjective thing you can get. Does the game run well? Does it have many bugs? Okay, no, or yes and no. I'm happy. Also, on the PlayStation Store, they've got a day one edition out, like most games do. It was $54.99 earlier in the week. This morning I wake up, I just check it in the store, $57.99.
A £3 increase.
So what are we doing there? I mean, it's not going to break my bank balance £3, but the principle of it now has got my back up a little bit. So maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just say, well, I'll go and play Pentiment instead.
100% what you should do is go play Pentiment, wait until Adkins has completed
borrow it
Callisto
off him.
Protocol, and then borrow it off him and play it and enjoy it, worry and cost-free.
Crawling it to do that, but... Well, let's move on to a somewhat related topic. Nintendo apologises for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's performance and pledges improvements. The game has faced online backlash due to its poor performance since launch. So yeah, they said they're taking this player feedback seriously, in quotes, and this is what they've got to say. We are aware that players may encounter issues that affect the game's performance. Our goal is always to give players a positive experience with our games, and we apologise for this inconvenience. We take the feedback from players seriously and are working on improvements to the game. They've released an update since then which doesn't address any of the technical performance issues. What do you make of that then? We did say whether Nintendo gave a shit. At least they've come out and said, look, well, at least talk is cheap.
Yeah.
Talk is
after
cheap.
10 million copies were sold in 3 days or whatever. Then they come out and say, yeah, sorry about that. What? What? Don't fucking release it in that diabolical state then and take the fucking money and then go, yeah, we'll sort that out.
Everyone in that office knew. They all played it and went, well, that's going to be what it's going to be. let's roll the dice here. I don't know.
They go up to Alan, didn't they, and go, look, you might get a bit of criticism, but it will absolutely get the banknotes rolling. And he went, well, let's do it then.
I mean, I do hope they get that into a state, but it looks fundamentally in such poor shape. And obviously, we've spoken about the Switch struggling to keep up. It's just not a...
How much can you realistically do to optimise that from now? Like, I don't know. I mean, there's always things that they can do, I'm sure, but why not? Why do them now? I don't understand. Like, they must see some of this when they play test it, like, and QA it.
They do. It's just like...
And then but they don't, like, it's such disingenuous bullshit where they then go, oh yeah, we'll do a fix for that. Yeah, where'd that come from? We'll fix that. Like, so many games now get away with it. it does wind me up.
Yeah.
I don't even mind if they went, look, there's a few technical things we're still working through. We'll be issuing up weekly releases. Keep engaged with the community and stuff like that. I don't know. I on a completely separate note, I really just do hope that what they're doing at Midnight Society and with Dead Drop and the way that they're engaged with the community kind of changes the landscape of relationship between the gamer and the developer and everything. I'm not convinced. I think Midnight Society is definitely out there on its own, and it's dealing with the development, not the updates of a game.
Yeah.
But still, I think the principle is the same, right? It's kind of like we're in it together. We want to build a good game. We want you to enjoy it, so we'll take your feedback and work on things and let you play through it and stuff. Like, I think it seems a really obvious model.
Yeah. But how could you do that with something like God of War? There are just some games that it will not lend itself to because you don't want them spoilers getting out.
I mean, I guess it's not for every game, but where they know there's going to be a huge kind of community of invested people. Yeah,
the Dead Space remake that's coming January, they have done that because it's got such a, not to say big following, but there's a very passionate. I love Dead Space, but they've been saying, look, we're not going to crap on the original. We want your help, to kind of feedback. They've set up groups and whatnot, and it's definitely a way to go. But there's just developers out there that just think, well, I'm right. And if you can just deliver something that's technically competent, that scrubs away, I think, half the issues that you'll ever face. Because the rest of the stuff you hang it on, like mechanics and other things, you can say, well, that's just taste. And at that point, whose opinion out of these 10 people shouting is right? But I don't know. From a technical perspective, things should be better. We've said it, and I'll keep banging that drum. And talk is cheap, so you can say all you want. And if you don't do anything about it, it means absolute.
That's very true.
Diddly fucking squat. Here's one for you. Plans to release a game console for dogs revealed.
What?
The project is designed to offer health benefits for pets. Plans to release a console tailored for dogs. Big detail by a startup called Joypaw. The company is the brainchild of friends and co-founders. Dersim Advar and Marco Jenny, who describe themselves as animal lovers, gamers, and scientists. As reported by Axios, the Joypaw console lets dogs play games designed to provide both physical and mental stimulation to man's best friend.
Good Lord. You try to get Davey doing that. It ain't going to happen.
No, you're right. The idea of this is just absurd. I wonder how much it's going to cost, but you know what? If it ever comes out and Davey's knocking about or there's another dog around and it's not absurdly expensive, I will have to just... I'll have to just see it unfold, but you
give a dog anything, so you give it like a stupid chewed up old toy and it'll play with it for ages.
He plays with a fucking half blown up balloon. That's his favourite thing.
So how are you going to get him to engage with a video
fucking
game?
Fucking £15 Kong toys that do all squeaking. That he ain't interested.
Yeah.
Just give him a balloon. He'll kick that around for an hour, knacker himself out. Fucking crazy. Here's one for you. A Warzone 2 skin dubbed Roze 2.0 is currently one of Steam's best-selling products.
I really hoped we weren't going to get into this.
Well, look, I won't ask for a full history on this, but I'm led to believe that this skin was in Warzone originally and caused a bit of a stir because people couldn't see people who had bought that skin. It was a bit of a darker complexion, maybe, or the attire was. And now they've got a one that they're dubbing Roze 2.0. I guess it's called something different.
So basically what's happened is there was an old skin called Roze, and it was a fully black skin. Like, that was all it was. So in the darker parts of the map, essentially becomes invisible and harder to see. Everyone started to use it because of that reason. Now what they've done is they've released a load of CDL team skins.
Right.
And I think it's the LA Thieves. Their skin, or one of their skins, is an all black skin with it's just got a red LA writing on the front. So it's basically does the same thing.
Yep.
You can buy it. I think it's about a tenner. Might just be a little bit less. And it's basic. I mean, it's noticeably harder to see in the darker areas of the map. So that's what they've done. The original Roze skin wasn't a purchase skin. It was available, I think. It was an unlockable skin through a battle pass, I think.
They chucked
But
it
this
in
one,
DMZ.
well, they haven't. They've literally said, "Buy it's pay to win." Essentially, is what that skin is, or at least it's a form of that. So yeah, everyone's now running around with that. It's so frustrating because it's
Is it actually a problem then? Have you
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I've got and loads of people are using it. It's definitely in darker rooms and stuff. It's definitely much more difficult to see.
It says here for £8 you get it yourself though.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Right.
Even just on a matter of principle, for me,
£8.
it's not happening.
So you're taking the same approach with me with Callisto. They've stuffed me out of £3, and now I don't want to play the game.
I refuse to be part of pay to win on a free game. I refuse to do that. But besides the point, anyway, they'll nerf it. And I was on it earlier, and I was chatting to Gallia and Pee Wee and Co. And I was like, imagine it's a CDL skin. You imagine you're one of the others, and you're wearing bright purple.
Yeah.
Like, and you're up against the LA Thieves, who are all in this dark. Like, it fundamentally, from a CDL perspective, it doesn't even the playing field. So, in my view, surely it's going to have to get nerfed in some way. Like, they're going to have to get them to change that skin. But as usual with Call of Duty, not until they've raked in enough money.
So, how do they nerf the old Roze or the original Roze kind of skin?
So they upped the brightness on her.
Or made it a bit grey.
So it wasn't like dark. It wasn't black. It was like light grey, basically. And I imagine they'll either have to get LA Thieves to change some of the colours on their skin, or they'll have to lighten it or do something.
Yeah, I've heard, and again, this is complete offhand experience. This is something that's been said several times by Shane Satterfield, who hosts Game Face on Sifted, that League of Legends do a similar sort of tactic almost, in that they will release new heroes. It's a free-to-play game. Release new heroes that are configured to be, the meta for that period of time. People go and buy that hero. They rake in the cash, then they nerf it, and sort of it's a way of triggering people to spend money basically on a regular basis. I wonder if that's intentional here. You'd think they know what they're doing. Or whether it's just a bit of a slip of the... Someone just went, I've made that too dark. Just a little colour palette.
Honestly, it's bullshit. They do it all the time.
Right, okay.
They do it all the time with weapons. Normally it's with weapons. It's not normally with player skins.
No.
But they know that, it's obvious what's going to happen. If you make a skin darker, it's harder to see in the darker areas of the map. Like, it's not rocket science. So yeah, they know what they're doing, and I've said to you before, they've hid that gun. Either you have to go and jump through the hoops in DMZ, or you buy a blueprint, which is basically you have to buy the gun.
Yeah.
So fortunately, at the minute, it doesn't appear to be the meta gun, but it wouldn't surprise me if in a balance update it at some point does. So yeah, it's obvious, and they've done it since Warzone started. Like, it's been happening for years, and it won't stop.
Wow. Activision playing with fire once again with their audience. Seem like to antagonise their audience. I've noticed some of these live service
People
games.
don't care. People don't even care. It doesn't even annoy people. They just go and buy the skin.
Yeah.
Like, this is what frustrates me. It's like Nick Gallia's got it. Like, he bought
Good
it.
bad
It's
man.
But they're always like, well, it's out £8. It's like, it's not the money. It's not that the money's too much. It's the principle. Like, it's the fact that they're basically paywalling stuff that gives you a competitive advantage. That's what's fundamentally wrong, and I refuse to be part of that. And then they, like you said, they plead ignorance and go, "Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, we'll tone that down." But then by the time people have already spent millions of pounds on it anyway, and they've raked in the money, and they go, "Oh, sorry."
Didn't know
It's
about
nonsense. Anyway, sorry. I was worried that this sort of stuff would crop up because it gets my back up.
No, it's good. That's what I like to hear. I think that's it for this part of the podcast, so we will transition to some game impressions for you. God, what do I pick here?
What we got?
Jesus. You know what? When I chucked Power Wash Simulator on for the last episode, it must have been recorded in the height of summer because we was all complaining about how bloody hot it was.
Yeah, it
thought,
was.
This is what happens when things get stacked up. I'm just going to go back to the oldest one we've got, which is Life is Strange True Colours. This is what I had to say about playing through that particular title. I think you were the interviewer and I was the interviewee. So yeah, Life is Strange True Colours is coming your way after this short intermission. But we will see you on the other side. Here we are then, back with some impressions about some video games that you can play today. This time it's Life is Strange True Colours, and I'll be giving you my opinion of said game with the help of our resident referee Logan, who's here to ask the poignant questions and try and extract as much information as he can out of me. I'll hand over to you, Mr. Logan, to kick things off. But Life is Strange, I've played all the episodes and I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, so I was going to say, where does this... I've got a brief idea of Life is Strange is. It's an episodic type game. For some reason in my head, I've got a similarity to The Walking Dead in it, but I don't know whether I've pulled that out of the nonsense pile or not.
No. So yeah, Life is... So I've played all the Life is Strange games that have come before this. I've been, I'll say, a pretty big fan of it over the years. They have their own style, and I find them quite absorbing. The characters that they bring to life are really, really good, and that's across pretty much all the entries. But I'm a fan of the series, and I think it's... Yeah, so when you say Walking Dead, it's definitely it's a Telltale-like game, if we're still using them as the descriptive...
Brought out the bins.
Well, got to bring them back sometime. And Life is Strange was similar in the fact that it was it's narrative focused, but the twist with Life is Strange is, yes, you get the verbal and dialogue choices, which is going on for the Telltale games. But each of the games, there's usually, and there is, some mechanic, some I want to say some ability that your character has that sets them apart. Some unnatural ability, I should say. So like in the first one, you can rewind time, which is obviously super interesting for a game where you're making choices. It's like, oh, I'll rewind that, and if I change my mind. Second one, Life is Strange 2, is actually quite cool. You play as the older of these two brothers, have to go on a road trip, and it's actually the younger brother that has, I guess, like telekinesis power, so he can do things with his mind, like move things and whatnot. So though you're not directly in control of him, you instruct him when to use it, and sometimes more importantly, when not to use these powers. And that kind of shapes him as a person as the game. So that's interesting as well. And you got True Colours, which I don't know how to describe this. So essentially, he plays this lady called Alex Chen, okay, and her ability is that she can feel people's emotions, and that's a little bit artsy fartsy way to say it. The real power is that she can understand what people are saying in their head, so you can hear what your thoughts are, and off the top of that, she can see how you're feeling with like a color coding. So like blue might be peaceful, but red you can see someone's angry. So that's the kind of the power you've got, and that's what sets these apart usually from the Telltale games, that you've always got this ability to manage and to help, to support throughout the game. But obviously, as I mentioned in the second one, it's like, should you always be using it? Is it morally right? So it kind of goes through all those questions, and action wise, it's not an action game. It is a narrative game. So people need to get that kind of in their heads. Shall I read out the description?
Let's do it.
Part of it. So
it's my favourite part of these reviews now, is hearing whether this description matches up to what we can expect from the game.
Yeah. So Life is Strange True Colours, spelt wrong.
It's not spelled with a U, is it?
No U. Just colours. Have I blown that?
No, I don't know whether I've blown that now.
No, they use the Queen's English. Come on.
Colours. I need to write it down to see what's right.
Anyway, don't look right to me. Ain't got a U in it, so.
Yeah, you're right. It does. It has a U. Yeah, Colours. Yeah, you're right.
They've blown that, but we'll let them off the hook.
Yeah.
Anyway, Life is Strange Colours, a bold new era of the award-winning Life is Strange begins with an all-new playable lead character and a thrilling mystery to solve. Alex Chen has long suppressed her curse, the supernatural ability to experience, absorb, and manipulate the strong emotions of others, which she sees as blazing coloured auras.
Yeah.
When her brother dies in a so-called accident, Alex must embrace her volatile power to find the truth and uncover the dark secret buried by a small town. I won't go. It goes on, but yeah, that's kind of like the Cliff Notes description. So that's the setup.
Right. So basically, it's murder mystery.
Yeah. I mean, it is. You know,
in the billiards with the spanner.
Yeah. Well,
Jobby.
I mean, so it's not quite. So what happens is the brother kind of dies in an accident of sorts. It's not like he's found gutted in the hallway somewhere. And you're like, bloody hell, he's been murdered. Like, it's something. It's a mining town, and there's an incident that happens, and he's caught up in that. Okay, so it's kind of like there's no direct sort of murder at play here, but seemingly, safety protocols. Something's gone wrong, and it's like, well, what's happening here? And you have only recently arrived in this town. Your brother was living there for years and years. He's kind of made his life there. And Alex is coming out of foster care and foster home and going to move her brother, hopefully to start a new life. And, that clearly gets off on a bit of a sour note. So you're kind of learning this new town to go and live in with Alex. You're kind of learning who these people are, what they're up to. And then you've got this, this absolute Costa event happening, which you undoubtedly want to get justice for and figure out what's occurred. So that's kind of where we're setting up. And you mentioned the episodic nature of it. So this is the first time that Life is Strange has not gone down the episodic way. The full game. I mean, it's been out a while now, but at launch, the game launched with all the episodes. I think it's 5 in total. And it's interesting because we've seen Hitman pivot away from this with Hitman 3, when that came out last year in 2021. That released all 6 of its levels in one go. And previously, the original Hitman, at least, was one by one. They released them piecemeal. So they've pivoted away from that. Life is Strange has done the same. And then I was reading that the upcoming Wolf Among Us 2 is still going to be episodic. So an interesting move from those boys and girls. But I think this is, overall, this is a massive boon, just having the game there and ready to go through. Because the previous 2 seasons, 1 and 2, as much as I love them, I was playing them in sync with the releases. That was going on for close to a year. And it's like, how are we going to remember all this that's going on? It's a narrative. It's not easy. You know what? I started watching The Walking the Dead recently. I've heard the end's in sight for that. I've said, look, once they decide when they're going to pack that in, I'll jump on it and finish it off. Yeah. But it's all there to binge now. And I was talking to Adcock about it because he was the one who was like, come on, it's wrapping up or whatever. I was like, all right, I'll jump on it. And I'll tell you what, being able to just binge that show has made it so much more enjoyable because the slow episodes don't feel as slow because you're kind of just going to the next one at your leisure. Whereas if I was waiting for a week, like we used to, sit there fucking waiting for a week. If you had a week episode, it was a bit of a...
It brought it all down,
yeah, you'd be sitting there fuming for a week. Whereas, I think that's not necessarily is the case with Life is Strange, but a similar... You can manage your time and do it in a way that you want to and just have it a bit more condensed so that everything's more familiar and there's no details being forgotten. So I think this is good.
I don't think it suits games to have them episodic. Like there's some TV programs where I go, yeah, I'm fine with that. Like one a week. But even some of the series that I want to watch and I like watching nowadays, I just go, I'll just wait until it's all there, and then I can just, if I want to watch 3 episodes, I can, and if I want to not watch one for a while, I can. I like the flexibility, so yeah, it's good that they've done it with this, I guess. Yeah, it's interesting. There's still games that are, I think, obviously all the Telltale ones when they're releasing new ones that come out periodically, didn't they? And
Yeah,
it's like,
they were episodic till the day they went under, and that was almost part of the issue. Is that it wasn't, people would wait, and it was like, we've now got to develop the rest of this game with 20% of the sales we were getting before, and we've still got 80% of the game left to do. And ultimately led to them sort of going under. I mean, they're sort of back now, but it's been reformed. It's not the same as what it was.
Not the old gang back together.
No, yeah. So one of those things. And this was sitting on Game Pass there ready. So again, excuses all gone. I will say, and I will check the price, because there's a reason why I didn't get it to start with, and I think I was busy with other things, which is the story of many people's lives, but also I remember just looking at the price and thinking, that feels
steep.
It feels a bit high, and I will look up what it was in between sort of your questions. So I'll park that for now, and then when I get it, I'll just blurt it out. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with Life is Strange and the episodic nature and where I played it.
So was it? Here we go. It's £25 still on Xbox, but it come out and it was $49.99.
Yeah, and that's what I was like, no. It's one of those ones where I was like, no, £50. I was a bit like, no. And there's an inconsistency there, because I've sat here and played £70 for games that were £60 last gen and not batted an eyelid. So there's something to be said for the inconsistency on my part, but for me personally, it just felt a bit steep. I couldn't quite bring myself to do it. Plus, like I said, I was busy, so you got deluxe editions going for £55. I was like, no, I'll wait. I waited, and guess what? They dumped it on Game Pass. And
the best thing about Game Pass is that you just don't know what might or might not come up on there in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like this is possible. So sometimes, as you say, you're better off just waiting it out and see. And if sales aren't as good, it might come up on sale anyway, in which case you get a discount. As I say, this again, why have people not got Game Pass? That's the first question. But even that is 50% off. So
yeah,
it's there to be got at. So I guess, in terms of the game, was there anything different, markedly different with this version, if you like, or this installment than there were on other ones, or is it more of the same? Is it a bit like that Assassin's Creed, where you go, well, a little bit, pretty much the same, but a little bit of sprinkling of something on top?
I mean, it's familiar ground, absolutely. It's they've not ripped up the formula and changed it. Obviously, the abilities or the power that you have change the way in which you can operate. And there's an upgrade in visuals, no doubt, but we still have the animations still look a little bit stiff. Lip syncing's not the greatest. It still feels like it's a league below like the top end in terms of production values, and that's probably where actually I was thinking, right, £55. Like, I know it's not a full price game, but that's £5. Well, no, it is, because
pretty much
Elden Ring was £50. I mean, that technically is not great, but no, once you go into that price bracket of over 50 or 40, 50 and above, I think you're asking for trouble. And yeah, it does have some. It just lacks that level of
polish.
Yeah, it is a bit scruff. Yeah, it is polish as well, because there's things like texture popping when the camera changes angle. Like, it'll change. Like, you'll be talking to someone, it'll change to like see them because they're talking, and then like the picture on the wall go, oh, it weren't ready. I was like, hang on, what do you mean you weren't ready? There's nothing dynamic going on here. That's just there. So when you see
while
things,
we're
struggling, it's like when you see things like that, it's a bit like, come on, let's try and get this better. But for these games, I suppose this is the best looking one. I think that's one way to kind of compare it against its older last gen versions that are quite old now. This is the best looking one, but it's still, you compare it to other peers, even in that price range, it's going to come up a little bit short. But ultimately, the game is about the characters and the story, and that's kind of where most of the hat will be hung. I will say that the one thing they continue to do really well is just have such an awesome soundtrack. I don't know how or what they're doing over there when they pick these games out or these songs out, but they are just so good. There are moments where you can like wander around and you can just sit on a bench and then there'll be like a monologue of Alex in her head talking through what's just happened, or but there'll be this awesome just theme, like this music going on in the background, and even after she's finished talking, you kind of just sit there and be like, yeah, it's a good tune, and you think, hang on, I'll wait to get on with this because I need to wrap this up and have dinner in a minute. So you do catch yourself. That's definitely a highlight they've had through all the games that I've played that are in the Life is Strange kind of universe. Another thing they added to this one, which, because you're in a town, you do spend a fair bit of time exploring and sort of wandering around. Like, it'd be like, I'll go and the main objective would be go and see Andy in the flower shop, but en route you can speak to the people and do like optional quests, almost like favors and stuff. So that's kind of nice. It would be good if they were time critical. It wouldn't be good because people would lose their rag. But it would be handy because it's like to feel like a bustling town. It's like, well, Andy's in the flower shop. He's not going to move, so that's the main quest. But there's Jill over there, and then Ted, who's in the bar. Like, if you go and help one of them, you probably won't have time to help the other. That'll be an interesting dynamic where you've got this power, and it's like, where am I best utilised to give it? Does Ted deserve it because he's old pisshead, or do we just bin him off for the day? But they didn't do that. You can literally do everything within the time it gives you. It's unlimited, but having those options there are nice. It kind of gives you get a better understanding of how this ability works and how powerful it can be, and you meet some interesting characters along the way, and it kind of builds up how the town is. You get to know the ins and outs, who's doing what, personalities, etc.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So I guess, is there anything else that you want to touch on as part of your review for what's key here for us to know about Life Strange? Yeah,
so one thing, again, I've got to mention this, that going back to the production side of things, like something really impactful will happen. There'll be like a moment and you'll be like, whoa, and it just sort of like, in most games and whatnot, it will hang there in the scene, like it'll be like there'll be a panning out shot and the music's going and you're kind of left to say, this one, it's sort of, the incident happens, it goes to start doing that, and then it just goes to black and does the next scene. It sort of just cuts off the legs of it, and I was like, oh, kind of don't let it breathe, just skipped us on. It's like maybe time is not on my hands here. And then what I would say narratively wise, I think all the characters are written well. The story in itself is okay. Like what I've set up to you, I think is a fine setup and a noble cause to go and chase down. But this is reasonably common in the series, is that what transpires and what ends up being the truth is just a bit, like, we've heard all this before, like it's not very clever, it's not very subtle, it's a bit kind of on the nose. It's like, oh, it's just that, is it? It's like not, I don't think that's particularly well thought out. I think they had all these good ideas for the guts of it, and then it was like, oh, how do we thread this together? And it's like, well, we'll just chuck it in there, and it's you've probably heard this a million times, and we just hope that the characters freshen it up enough that you'll enjoy it. So I think that's something that I've picked up on in a few of the games that I've played in Life is Strange, that probably let this one down just a little bit. Like, considering how well fleshed out the characters are, just like the overall story beats are very vanilla and generic. So that's kind of my any other business, I think. And I didn't buy the DLC. There's DLC called Wavelengths, which lets you control one of the characters in the town, which I didn't purchase. I was tempted to, but I kind of have this thought that if I don't be giving Phil any money other than Game Pass, so you
get your Game Pass subscription. I'll play what you give me for that. That's the deal.
Yep, that's exactly it. So that didn't get done, but there you go. Not necessarily.
If it comes onto Game Pass, would it get done?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They very rarely put DLC on there. It just, It just annoys me. It's like, well, I ain't going on Netflix asking for the behind the scenes part of the. They're not asking me for a $5 to watch that, are they? It's like, oh, come on. I understand why they do it because the publisher's probably like, no, you can give us all this money.
That's a base game. But...
Yeah. I probably will do it one day, but wasn't urged to do it immediately.
No, that's fair enough. So I guess that pretty much brings us to the point where we walk up to the doors of the Dimp Digital Gallery and either make the decision to go in or not go in. And obviously, if we do go in, which one of the wings that we go down?
Yes.
So I guess first question, does it enter the gallery?
Yep, I'll open the doors for Life is Strange True Colors, and it will be in the gallery for sure.
Okay, so that brings us. We've got 4 wings in Apps. Well, we've got Apps' wing and 4 sub wings. I'm going to call them the way that I see it in my head.
Maybe we should just have an overall wing.
Well, rather than wings per person.
Yeah, and just say this is just, and then just labelled. Yeah. This is Apps' art. It's not a game. That's all right. I'll change it in the next few episodes so people can keep up with that latest law change.
I have to write a book on this at some point.
I think someone is. I think Paper's writing it.
Paper? Oh dear, that's a concern.
No. He'll be writing collars.
So we've established we open the doors. We've got the bronze, silver, gold, and plat wing. Which one does Life of Strange True Colors get into?
It's cowardly, but I'm just going to bung it into the silver wing, and no one can complain. It's a good game, solid, worthwhile. Like, it's not a disaster of the franchise. It's another solid entry into a franchise I've enjoyed. It doesn't have anything that majorly sets it apart from the others to move it up. I think Life is Strange, the original, and this is just because it was the first one, probably I hold in the highest esteem because it was new at the time. I think as you do sequels and the formula becomes familiar, they kind of drop off a little bit. But yeah, I think that's the least controversial wing to put things in silver. People don't be complaining about that, so they just sort of move on with it. Try and put it any higher or lower, and you have people knocking on the doors asking what it's doing in there. So just going to avoid the debate and chuck it in at silver. I'll be done with it.
It's like getting a C at school. It's like acceptable on almost every level.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I think you didn't say too much negative about it, other than the fact that it doesn't look too great and there's some predictability.
Yeah.
But as I say, I think if it was a decent experience, everything kind of goes in there, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the way to do it for sure. So, Life is Strange True Colors earns itself a silver in the gaming gallery. We'll be back on the next episode of Idle Game Chat. Thanks if you're listening or watching this late into the show. We appreciate the time you spent with us today or over a number of days. I know a lot of people pause it, although it's normally not that long. Like some of these podcasts rattling on for 3 hours. I can understand that being broken up, but these, we try and keep it within reason, under 90 minutes, close to an hour. So I think you should be doing that in one go. Depends on your commute. Anyway, waffling. Maybe it will go over 90 minutes if we're not careful. Nothing more for us to say here, though, other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.